What is up, everyone? It's Quinn here, and in today's video, I'm going to be going through my favorite Dynasty late round rookie picks in your rookie drafts, and then also some potential taxi stashes. So these are all going to be players that are going like round 4, potentially undrafted in your rookie drafts that I do think are worth a pick or a potential pickup off the waiver wire. If you guys enjoyed the video, smash that like button, subscribe. Questions, comments, drop them down below. Also, let me know what late round players you guys are targeting. Would love to hear it. But let's just dive right into the first player here. Going to be covering 10 guys in this video, and my first player is going to be Jarquez Hunter. Now, in my personal rankings, I actually have him as like a round 3 pick. Like if, the draft went in order of my rankings, I guess I'd be willing to take him in round 3. And it comes down to a couple things. I do think he's a solid overall prospect, but I also just want to be invested in this Rams running back room. They've spent like decent draft capital on the position in back-to-back seasons. Round 3, Blake Corum last year. Round 4, Jarquez Hunter this season. You have Kyren Williams, who's been the workhorse over the past couple of years, but he is heading into the last year of his contract. And there's no guarantee they're going to re-sign him to like decent money. It's possible they're just kind of getting him on that cheap contract. They're getting a ton of opportunities out of him, and then they might just, move on, kind of kick him to the curb, and then run with one of these younger guys like Corum or Hunter. And I think the Rams are probably the best team to have a handcuff running back for, because we've seen a bunch of examples of guys just kind of stepping into this offense with injuries or, a guy potentially getting replaced as the starter and just giving you that immediate fantasy production because they're going to be force-fed. I mean, even Kyren Williams, right? He was pretty much undrafted in the vast majority of leagues in 2023. All of a sudden, there's just like volatility in the backfield. Cam Akers is no longer the number 1, and Kyren Williams is a league winner. We saw Darrell Henderson in 2023 with injuries. They bring him in off the street. He plays 4 games, scores 11 PPR points in 3 of them. In 2021, Cam Akers was out for the season. Darrell Henderson again. He scored 15 plus PPR points in 7 of his 12 games. That same season, when Henderson was missing time, Sony Michel, 22, 20, 19-point PPR games. So whoever's in there as the starting running back, they are going to produce. And then in terms of Hunter as a prospect, he, kind of fares well in a lot of different categories. 47% of his career yards run 15-plus yard runs, shows that he has that potential big play upside. For a smaller running back at 5'9", 204, he's pretty solid after contact, nearly 4 yards after contact per attempt. And then he's a competent pass catcher, not going to be running like a super advanced route tree or anything, but like 68 career receptions in college is a decent number. So he's someone where if he's going round 4 or potentially undrafted, I do think he's a solid pickup. Like round 4 capital on a good offense, can't ask for much more as a potential taxi stash. Then we're just going to continue on a run of running backs here. The next player is going to be Brashard Smith. I like the player pre-draft, and then I love the landing spot. He goes round 7, which is not great, but he lands with the Chiefs. And he is one of these running backs that was formerly a wide receiver, converted to the running back position. So he played 3 years at wide receiver at Miami, transfers to SMU, only has 1 college season at running back, but he put together a great year, rushed for over 1,300 yards, scored 14 touchdowns. I do think at the NFL level, he's going to be more of a pass catching back, a guy who's maybe getting like 5, 6, 7 carries a game, but you're hoping for like 4, 5, 6 targets. Like that's probably close to his ceiling role. But, he's kind of undersized, 5'10", 194, very fast, great athlete, 4.39 speed. And then this past year, even at the running back position, 41 receptions for 337 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns. We saw last season, the Chiefs just did not have a dynamic pass catcher at the running back position. Previously, they had a guy like Jerick McKinnon, who in 2022, if you guys remember, went on like a crazy run to end the year, like a potential league winner for fantasy, where he caught 56 passes for 512 yards, scored 10 total touchdowns, and then the last 6 games of the season, he averaged 20.8 PPR points and scored 9 touchdowns. So that really is the upside, right? It's pretty easy to see that role where you come in, you get touches near the goal line, you're a pass catching back, and you just rack up volume there. And then you look at the current depth chart, the top 3 running backs are Isaiah Pacheco, Kareem Hunt, and Elijah Mitchell. Pacheco and Mitchell have never really been pass catchers. Kareem Hunt, had that skill set, but he's getting up there. He's not like a dynamic receiver at this point in his career. So if Brashard Smith can come in, impress this coaching staff, I do think he could have a role in year one. And on the Chiefs, if you're someone who is getting those valuable touches near the goal line, they're, designing stuff for you, you can produce for fantasy and be like a pretty fun option, especially if you're getting them for pretty much free. Now, the next running back I have here is going to be Tahj Brooks. He goes round 6 to the Bengals, and I think this is a pretty solid landing spot. Chase Brown was one of the running backs that I was kind of concerned about heading into the draft. If they went running back round 4, even day 2, that could be a hit to him as an undrafted guy or a day 3 pick, coming off a strong season. Those guys don't have a ton of security. So for the most part, he did survive the draft, right? It was a big win for Chase Brown. But I still think there's, potential for Tahj Brooks to come in here, earn a role in this offense. I think when you're looking at Chase Brown, Tahj Brooks would be the guy to come in, fill like an early down role, potentially work in near the goal line while Chase Brown kind of gets those explosive touches, getting the third downs, the receiving work. Brooks is a solid-sized running back, 5'9", 214, solid athletic testing, actually had great agility numbers. That's really where he stood out as an athlete. But he's someone who has commanded a lot of volume on the ground over the last couple of years. He's rushed for 1,500 yards in back-to-back seasons. And if he kind of can slide into that early down role, there's going to be some touchdown upside on this Bengals offense. So with these later round guys, especially at the running back position, a lot of it is just going to be the landing spot. And can you envision a role for this player? I can see, the potential here for Tahj Brooks. So it's possible he just ends up being a depth option, but the path is there for him to potentially get some usage here, as early as year one. Now, continuing with the running backs, we have Woody Marks, who kind of surprisingly, at least to me, goes round 4 to the Texans. And his calling card is definitely his receiving ability. Just a super impressive pass catching career at the running back position. He totaled 261 receptions for over 1,500 receiving yards in his 5 seasons. He had 4 seasons where he logged at least 40 receptions, and then he peaked at a season with 83 receptions for 502 yards, which, is just insane at the running back position. So he had been racking up a lot of receiving usage. The rushing production wasn't really there. He transfers to USC for the 2024 season and then ends up logging his first 1,000-yard rushing season. Now, I don't think he's going to be a high-volume guy on the ground. I definitely think he's someone kind of similar to a Brashard Smith, where maybe he's getting, 5-ish carries per game. The upside's going to come from the receiving production. You look at this running back room. You have Joe Mixon as the clear number 1, probably the workhorse. But he's getting up there in age. He pretty much has 1 year left on his deal where if they want to get out of the contract, they can. And then you're looking at their depth pieces like Dameon Pierce. He had the fun rookie season. He's pretty much been dust since then. Dare Ngumbawale is kind of the guy where I feel like Marks could come in and kind of take over that third down receiving usage that he has had. Now, to kind of temper expectations a little bit, I don't think it's a great offense to be a receiving back for, just when you look at the weapons, right? Nico Collins, Christian Kirk, they spend solid draft capital on the Iowa State wide receivers in Jaden Higgins and Jalen Knoll. So it's how much upside is there going to be? But round 4 capital, aging running back 1, not a ton of depth. I don't think you're spending a round 4 pick on a receiving back that you have no interest in getting involved. So could be used creatively, will be interesting. I definitely think he's worth a round 4 or a pickup after the draft. Then another running back, Trevor Etienne, another round 4 running back actually, goes to the Panthers, gets very solid draft capital, early day 3. And he is going to a pretty crowded running back room when you look at it. You have Chuba Hubbard, who got extended during the season last year. You have Rico Dowdle, who's coming off a great season. They brought him in free agency. And then you have Jonathan Brooks, who they just spent a round 2 pick on last year. So at face value, it does look like a lot of names there. But you can kind of see where Etienne could work his way in. Chuba Hubbard, he's got this contract where, so he signed through this season. They actually have an out where I think they only eat $4.5 million in dead cap. If they don't take that out, then they're pretty much locked in for 3 more seasons. So it's possible that even Chuba, I think has 5 years total left, or 4. They could be out of it as early as, this next season. So something to keep in mind there. Then you look at Rico Dowdle. It's a 1-year deal, not a ton of money. If Etienne's legit, he's going to be the guy who gets the work, not the dude on like a 1-year rental. And then Jonathan Brooks, I mean, it sucks to say this. Like, I really liked him. He was a fun prospect. I thought he was going to be really good last year. He might be dust at this point. I mean, 2 torn ACLs on the same knee. That's tough. He's going to miss this entire season. And even if he's not dust, like, it's also possible the Panthers have just kind of moved on at the position. Like, if Etienne comes in, plays well, Chuba looks solid, like, those just might be the 2 guys they're rolling with moving forward. So Etienne is an early declare, not even 21 years old yet, 2 seasons at Florida, 1 at Georgia, never had like a monster collegiate season, but fairly productive all-around running back. I think he's somewhat interesting just with the round 4 capital. And then you can kind of just see the way this potentially pans out for him with contract stuff and then, an injury to a guy like Jonathan Brooks. Now we're going to pivot off of the running back position, and I want to talk about the tight end, Oronde Gadsden, because he gets the dream tight end landing spot. I think a lot of people thought the Chargers would go tight end. I was hoping it would be, potentially round 1, maybe round 2. They end up getting Gadsden in round 5. So like the hit rate on round 5 tight ends, not great, but he's kind of an intriguing option just based on his receiving upside. So he had 4 seasons at Syracuse. He came in as a wide receiver. So he played 2 at wideout. Then he transitions to tight end. So his last 2 seasons were at the tight end spot. He's kind of in this weird like tight end position though, because he's probably not going to be an inline guy, at least not right away. He's 6'4", but he's only 243 pounds. Transitioning from wide receiver, it's not like he has a ton of, pass blocking base there. And it does seem like the NFL has kind of moved away from these dudes because you can just kind of stick a corner on them like we saw with a Kyle Pitts. Dalton Kincaid is someone who like ideally would be used in the slot, but it's like, why would I put Kincaid there if I have a guy like Khalil Shakir, a wide receiver who can play in the slot? So there are certainly ways where this does not work out, but he tested solidly athletically, solid production in college. He had multiple 900-yard seasons, multiple seasons with at least 6 touchdowns. And then you look at the receiving comp here, like you've got some proven veteran tight ends in Will Dissly and Tyler Conklin, but if Gadsden comes in and is like a legit receiving weapon, like Will Dissly, Tyler Conklin, those are not guys you are scared of as pass catchers. Herbert likes to throw to his tight ends. I like the upside here for, a pretty cheap price with Gadsden. Then we're going to go back to running back with Damien Martinez. And he was someone that I really liked heading into the draft. And man, he just kept falling. I was hoping for these different landing spots. Cowboys would have been fun. There were a few other ones. He ends up going round 7, so bad draft capital. And then he gets a really, really ugly landing spot to the Seahawks. And so for some of these other players, I've been hyping up, they were a round 4 pick, or I've been hyping up, there's this clear opportunity for them to earn a role. As things stand right now, Damien Martinez does not have either of those. But what I like about him is that I think he has a pretty clear skill set that can translate to the NFL. A role as like an early down grinder, someone who could work in on the goal line, have a lot of touchdowns, like potential double-digit touchdown seasons. Like I do think that is like the upside case for Damien Martinez. In his 3 college seasons, he rushed for at least 900 yards in all 3 of them. The issue though is just like without a trade, he has 0 upside. He is completely buried behind 2 very solid running backs in Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet, and he doesn't even have the skill set that kind of like differentiates himself from them. Like it's not like he's a Brashard Smith pass catcher or like a Woody Marks pass catcher where you could say, okay, maybe he goes in on 3rd downs. Like he is just firmly pinned. However, there have been some rumors that one of these running backs might get traded, whether it's Kenneth Walker or Zach Charbonnet. And I mean, a trade takes him from like completely useless to all of a sudden he's like a very valuable handcuff. And if Kenneth Walker's the guy who's traded, maybe the Seahawks lean more into Charbonnet still probably being the lead back, but potentially more of like the 3rd downs, more focused on the receiving production. And then Damien Martinez comes in, takes some of those early down looks. And so, right now on paper, the situation is not good. I completely acknowledge that, but I do like the player. I think his value's obviously tanked with his draft capital falling, and a trade really does open things up for him. So a player I'm kind of willing to scoop up and wait and see how things play out. Then I believe this is the last running back I'll be talking about here, and then I'll have a couple of actually undrafted wide receivers. So we'll start off here with Kyle Monangai. And this is pretty much just a bet on like the uncertainty and potential upside of the Bears backfield. He goes round 7 to Chicago. And we saw how Ben Johnson used Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, how they were both super relevant for fantasy football. And so you do just want to be, kind of in on some of these Bears running backs. The issue obviously is like this running back room is a million times worse than the Lions. Like the Lions had the best backfield duo in the NFL. The Bears might have like a bottom 3 running back room at this point. You have DeAndre Swift, who they paid to be their lead back last year. He had a really bad 2024, and then he was moved on the Lions when Ben Johnson was there. So clearly, like, Ben Johnson was not all that torn up about Swift getting traded away. They bring in Jahmyr Gibbs to replace him, and he obviously has been a monster with them. And then they have Roschon Johnson, who I thought was interesting as a prospect, just hasn't really had like those breakout moments so far in the NFL. And so enter Kyle Monangai out of Rutgers. He's coming off of back-to-back 1,200-plus yard seasons. He's an impressive pass blocker, which is like a skill set that could potentially get him on the field. And so, like, I'm not going to pretend like I'm a huge Kyle Monangai guy. Like, he's certainly a flawed prospect. He's not an elite athlete. A lot of his advanced metrics are not great. But at the running back position, situation is massive, and he's in a spot here where if Ben Johnson already isn't a huge DeAndre Swift guy, who knows what he thinks of Roschon Johnson. Monangai's the running back they picked. Maybe they somehow don't get a Nick Chubb or a J.K. Dobbins, someone like that who's out there. And Kyle Monangai could come in, potentially earn a role, and all of a sudden, he's a super valuable option in Dynasty. Now, moving on to the last 2 players here, 2 wide receivers. We are going to start off with Isaiah Bond. And I'll just start off with the elephant in the room. Like, it's possible that he is just an awful person. He is facing very serious allegations, which is why he was not drafted. And it is why he has not yet been picked up by an NFL team. Like, someone with his draft stock, like even a few months ago, like not even getting picked up as like a, undrafted free agent, things could be pretty bad. So obviously keep that in mind. Like, it's very possible he's just a 0 because, he's just not a good dude. But from a fantasy perspective, which is what we're looking at here, I think he's worth a pickup just based on the upside. It's actually kind of insane how far his stock fell from week 7 of the college football season until the draft, where this is something I've talked about comparing him and Golden. In the first 5 games of the season, Isaiah Bond was the wide receiver 1. First 5 games, he had 20 receptions for 364 receiving yards, 3 touchdowns. Also had a couple of carries for 51 yards and a touchdown. He was consistent also, at least 60 receiving yards in all 5 games. Golden, comparatively, had 18 receptions for 223 yards and 3 touchdowns. Bond suffers an ankle injury in the 6th game. It's the one he re-aggravated in the college football playoff. And so he was kind of in and out of the lineup. I actually think he returned the next week after injuring it in game 6. But he was just never the same. The last 9 games of the season, 14 receptions for 176 yards and 2 touchdowns. After hitting at least 60 yards in all 5 of the games, he did not hit 60 yards a single time in those last 9. And then in that time, while Bond's hurt, banged up, Golden emerges as like, a round 1 draft pick. So it's possible that if he stays healthy, Isaiah Bond could be the guy going in round 1 or somewhere in round 2. And so even with the ankle injury, I think at worst, he's like a day 2 talent. If he did not have this legal thing, I'm very confident he would have gone, somewhere round 2, round 3. And so if you can get a potential day 2 pick for free, like, I'm willing to take the risk. Like I said, it's very possible he just, is kind of blackballed at this point because of his own actions. And if those things are true, then it'd be deserved. But in terms of like a fantasy pickup, I do think it's worth it. And then the last guy here, someone who's kind of fun, we have Xavier Restrepo out of Miami. And, typically not going to be super in on these undrafted wide receivers. The hit rate is obviously very, very low, but he's got a very unique situation where I did like him heading into the draft. He had back-to-back 1,000-yard receiving seasons. He has really good hands. He's someone who's going to play primarily in the slot, a 92% slot rate in his career, and he just gets in there, he gets open, and he commands a lot of volume. And then you look at the landing spot, he signs with the Titans, who drafted Cam Ward at the 101, so he's paired with his college quarterback from last year. And then it's also a wide open wide receiver room where you have Calvin Ridley as the clear-cut number 1. The current starters on the depth chart are Van Jefferson, who is pretty much nothing, and then Tyler Lockett, who didn't have a great season last year, could definitely be washed at this point. When you look at those rookies in Iamaner, DK, and then Restrepo, draft capital certainly does matter, but I think when you get a lot of guys at the same position coming in at the same time as rookies, it's not going to be a massive difference, especially like day 3 capital compared to like undrafted. Like, you're not going to feel pressured to, rush Iamaner into the starting lineup or something like that. And so if Restrepo comes in, he's going to have that chemistry with Cam Ward. Tyler Lockett's been playing on the outside with the Seahawks with JSN in the slot. It's possible that Restrepo comes in and earns that, starting spot in the slot. I'm not saying it's likely or it's like guaranteed to happen, but you can certainly see it playing out. And it just seems like things have lined up very well where the opportunity's there. It's an open wide receiver room. And then he's paired with his college quarterback. Like, it's a pretty great situation. And it does seem like his draft stock probably tanked because he just tested so poorly. Like, his 40 time, I believe, was in the 4.8s, which is pretty much a killer. But he said he was dealing with an injury. It's certainly possible. Like, he didn't play like he was running a 4.8. So certainly worth a fun pickup. I think he's interesting. But that is going to wrap it up for 10 potential late round rookie picks or taxi stashes. Let me know your thoughts down below. Drop your favorite kind of late round potential undrafted guy. But thank you all for stopping by, and I'll see you in the next one.